Hello everybody. So today we are actually going to be talking about slavery in Africa. We are going to be talking about how these things actually happen, how they take place, and the things that actually happen. Things that our forefathers actually passed through during the time of slavery, before the slavery abolition. So I am going to be opening your eyes to see from the lenses that many people in time past don't actually want us to see. There are a lot of things that they want us to forget about, but this is our history and this is what actually makes us Africans, and we will continue to discuss about it so that as time goes on, we are going to know where we are coming from, where we are going to, and things that are actually happening in order for us to know the necessary things for us to do and to help us in our decision making process. Now, before I dive deeper into this video, I need you to actually understand that in Africa, we have slaves already. There is already a slave and slave master. There is already a slavery method, but it is not as chaotic as what the Europeans bring to Africa. In Africa, the forms of slaves that we have are spoils of wars. For example, if Oyo Empire rises against another kingdom, now if they conquer, what they are going to do is that they are going to take them as slaves and they will bring them back to their own city, to their hometown, or to their own kingdom, or to their own empire. So the moment they bring them back, what that serves is to show the strength of the empire, to show the strength of the kingdom, nothing more, nothing less. Because the higher the number of slaves you have portrays or shows how strong you are when it comes to your strength, or to the strength of the kingdom or the empire. Now, that being said, what is slavery in Africa in this context that I am referring to? I am talking about the kind of slavery that happens from the Europeans upon Africa. It was forced upon us. Now, for you to actually understand where I am going to and how I am going to be explaining this, I need to understand that if I'm using the word blacks, there are two forms of black. I myself, I am a black. Every other person in Nigeria is a black. Even if you like your skin should be yellow, you are still a black man. You are still a black woman. All right, you are still a black person. Now, we have two types of black. We have the native black and the diaspora black. Now, the native black is someone like me and every other person that are native of African soil. Now, diaspora blacks are those ones that they have taken as slaves to the European parts, or to America, or to the Caribs, that over time have been living there and they have been giving birth, and then they are giving birth to them. These are the people, for example, that we refer to as black Americans. These are people we refer to as the diaspora black, which of course they call them in the then European as Negroes. And Negro means a slave. Now, for us to understand this very well, there is something we call the triangular slave trade. Triangular slave trade. Now, why do we call it the triangular slave trade? We call it triangular slave trade simply because there is a journey that happens between three different continents, between three different parts, between three different movements. Now, the triangular trade or the triangular slave trade signifies a journey like this. If you want to draw a triangle, you do like this and it comes like this: point 1, point 2, and point 3. Now, we are going to be talking about this in order for you to understand the journey that took place for the slavery and the slave masters. Now, before we talk about the triangular slave trade, let us talk about what the slavery is itself. So this is what happens. The Europeans, especially the Portuguese, they will come to Africa. They will come bearing gifts. They will come with wonderful things. They will come with things that our kings and our emperors have not been seen before. And they will bring it to them. And these are products, during the time of Industrial Revolution. And they will bring it to them. They will present it to them. And our kings, as ignorant as they may be, I'm sorry to say that, they will accept these things. Why? Because they are not seeing it around them. And easily they will exchange it for slaves. For example, these Europeans can bring an umbrella, and in exchange for an umbrella, it can be about 10 slaves to get just one umbrella. Now, for a bottle of whiskey, about 50 slaves can be exchanged for a bottle of whiskey. For a mirror, that is to just look yourself in it and see your reflection, about 5 slaves can go for that. To get a shotgun, then the gun that they often use, about 10 or 15 slaves can go for that in order for them to actually get the guns. Now look at what is happening. These people will begin to supply them guns and supply them ammunition in exchange for slaves. They are giving us instruments that will make us to destroy ourselves more, and they begin to pack the best of us back to their land. This is the process of slavery. Now let me tell you this. All the slaves that were actually taken to the European part were not given by the king with just free will alone. Although the kings have already given them access to the land, whereby they can easily come to the land and wrought any form of wickedness that they want to do. Now, this does not mean that all Europeans are wicked. I am going to be telling you the kind of people that they actually use to perpetrate these actions in order for them to actually do things like this. Just follow me in this video. We are going to be taking it one step at a time. So what these people are doing is that there are places we call coastal region. Now, when we say coastal region, we are talking about cities or towns around a sea. So when we say coastal regions, they are cities that you can mention now that are very close to where there is a sea, that a ship or a boat can cross over, that can pass over it. All right, areas like Lagos, like river states like Bayelsa and all those places. These are areas that we refer to as coastal region. Now, which has to mean that if they take slaves from where there is no coastal region, they will have to trek miles to get to a place where there is a coastal region for them to actually take them to Europe. And this is what will happen. Some of these people will not even take authority from the kings. They will just come and they will go to villages, go to anywhere, and they begin to kidnap some of these people. They begin to take them, and the moment they capture them, they are taking them as slaves. Now, I know that by this time, some of you must have been asking a question: how is it that they can take hundreds and hundreds of Africans, giant Africans, and they could not do anything about it? About just 3 white men can come to Africa and take about 50 men at once. How is it that they were not able to escape from it? Don't worry, we are still going to be discussing on some of the procedures that they use in order for them to ensure that African men are obedient to their words and to their actions. Now, let us go back to the triangular slave trade, like I said. Now, the triangular slave trade, like I said, it shows journey from America to Europe, from Europe to Africa, and from Africa back to America. From America, they are transferring resources to Europe. All right, that is a movement. Now, from Europe to Africa, they are bringing, remember I spoke about industrial revolution the other time. So they are bringing materials, instruments to Africa. They are transporting some of the finished goods to Africa. Remember I spoke about mirrors the other time, about guns, about suits, about shoe, about wine, swords, and different things that Africans have not yet developed on. That most of these things they have not actually seen it, so they transport it to Africa, and from Africa they will use those things in exchange for slaves, and they will carry slaves in Africa back to the American soil. Now, around the American soil, around the northern part, we have the Caribs there. Now, because on the Caribs we call it an island. There they have plantations also. Just follow the story as I'm talking about them now. So remember what I said, from America they transfer the goods, they transfer resources, materials, they transfer it to Europe, and from Europe the finished goods they bring it to Africa, and from Africa they exchange those things for slaves, and they transport slaves back to America, where people will begin to buy slaves in any form and anyhow they want it. Now, I call it triangular. Now, each of these lines or each of these legs are actually a journey. Now, from the coastal region, from the coastal ports, each of those journeys, for example, from Africa to America, is about 50 to 52 days. So each of those legs are signifying journey. All right, journey. Once they carry Africans and they are now in the ports, they are now on the ship, there is a compact they call tomb. And in this tomb, it is a space, a small space that cannot occupy a lot of people. But they will push Africans there. And if they capture about 500 Africans, for example, out of these 500 people, you will rarely see half of them survive. Why? Because some of them, they are just there to the extent that if any of them turn, it will inconvenience another person. It is there that they will urinate, it is there that they will poo, it is there that they will do all sorts of things that they want to do. And some of them don't have that strong immunization enough, some of them will die there. So it's as if the lives of these blacks, of Africans, are nothing. It's just like a trash to them. So the moment they push them there, they will just lock them there, and they can begin to pour them water, and maybe in the evening sometimes they can just bring them out in order for the Africans to actually perform for them. These are some of the things that our fathers passed through. These are some of the rigors that they go through. And after all this is, imagine a man passing through this struggle for about 50 to 52 days on the ocean. It is terrible. Now, there are a lot of things they actually face also before getting to the coastal region. Imagine, for example, in Nigeria, a state like Ekiti State. Imagine wanting to transport slaves from Ekiti State all through to Lagos State. Look at the number of days they are going to use on foot trying to go to Lagos State. Before them getting there, look at a place like Badagry, for example, in Lagos, where they keep slaves before the arrival of the ship. I mean, these are rigors. Go and see. If you have not been to Badagry, go there, go and see. And if you don't have money to go there, you can just search it online. They are all over the place on YouTube and on Facebook, even some on Instagram. Go and check it on TikTok. Go to all social media handles. Go and check. Go and see a small compact that they are locking in number of slaves that, oh God, it's so terrible. It's so terrible. Now, when they get slaves like that and they are trying to transport them to the coastal region, they will be on foot. And now this is the point where we are going to be talking about how is it that just about 5 white men can take about 100 African slaves, giant men, strong men and women. How can they take them like that and they will be able to transport them even to America without any problem whatsoever? How are they able to do that? Are the Africans, are they dull? Are the Africans, are they foolish? Do they not know what to do? Are they not strong? Have they been intoxicated? What is wrong with them? How is it that they cannot free themselves? Now, I am going to explain to you 4 different procedures that they actually make use of. Now, in order for you to understand these procedures, you need to understand that there is a way they transport them. They don't just leave them and let everybody walk. They will line them up on a single file. What we mean by a single file is like talking about a single row. All of you must stand on one single line like this, which means someone will be in front, another person at my back, you understand, and will continue to move. Now, I need you to imagine something that I'm about to describe now. Imagine putting a chain on the neck of someone, and the chain from the neck extends to the leg of another person. Now, from the leg of that person, the chain again extends to the hand of another person, and the chain again extends to the wrist of another person, and the chain from there again extends to the neck of another person. Now, imagine that rigor. That alone means that if one person decides to stop moving, the chain is sharpened enough that the moment you decide and say, no, I am no longer going, the person at the back will be hot, or the person moving in the front will be hot with the drag of the chain. If the person that the chain extends to the feet decides to just move the leg anyhow without following the pattern of the moving, it will hurt the person coming behind and it will also hurt him in the leg. Look at all this rigor. Now let me talk about the first procedure. This is a procedure I call the procedure of traumatization. They traumatized these people. Ask me how this happens. Imagine these people being on a single file, and then someone says, no, I am an African, I cannot go, I am strong, I am this. And the moment they discover that this person is not trying to cooperate, they just take a gun and gun him down. And you know Africans, we fear death. The moment they discover that one of them is dead, what will every other person do? They will begin to shiver, and then everybody will cooperate. If at another point another person says, no, I'm not ready to go, and they take whip and they begin to lash the person, beat the person mercilessly, and then even the person's bag is bringing out blood, what will every other person do? They will cooperate. This is the first thing that they did. Remember, I told you that they are chained, and them being chained, on that alone, it is enough to enslave anybody. But still, they traumatize them in order for them to obey to their commands and move at their words. Remember, I said earlier, not all Europeans or Americans are bad. We are going to be talking about the kind of people that they make use of to perpetrate these actions, which will be the procedure 4. Number 2 is the procedure of starvation. Now, they are only feeding these people for survival, not for strength. What do I say? They are only feeding them for survival and not for strength. So strength is not even in the box at all. It's just for them to survive. Just let us feed them in order for them to be able to get to the American soil. The moment they are able to get there, that is what they are concerned about. Why? Because if they feed them for strength, these African men and women may actually say, now I have my strength, I want to retaliate. So they will not feed them in order for them to actually gain strength. They only feed them for survival. The third one is malevolent manacle. And this is what I've actually explained earlier, which I said it deals with chain. Malevolent means evil or harmful, and manacle means chain, in chain. Fourth one is what I call the process or the contract of the malcontent. Now this is where we are going. Not all Europeans or Americans or Portuguese, like I said earlier, are actually wrong. Not all of them are insane. Not all of them are bad. But the kind of people that they send to the African soil to actually bring these people are who we refer to as the malcontents. These people don't care. They don't care if out of 1,000 people 900 dies. They don't care if sickness kills these people. They don't care what befall these people. These are the kind of people that can whip someone till death. They don't care. They don't care about anything. Their own is just to achieve their aims. The moment they are given an instruction, they just want to carry it out. They damn any consequences that come after that. And they don't care about the lives of people. So it's just like they are intoxicated and drunk with evil to the point that there is nothing good in them. These are the kind of people that they send to the African soil to take Africans as slaves, to make sure that Africans actually suffer. These are the things that actually happens. Now see what our fathers has passed through. It was many years after this that slave trade was abolished. Someone like Samuel Ajayi Crowther, for example, he was also captured at the age of 9 and was transferred to the same place that his mother was. But it was recently after that that the slave trade in Africa was actually abolished. And it was even at the abolishment, at the call for the abolishment, it did not take effect immediately. But we thank God for the British Council that began to intercept them in order for the slave trade in Africa to stop. Now on this YouTube channel, I am going to be bringing different stories that has to do with literature and African literature particularly, and I'm going to be opening our eyes to see different ways that even African literature have in one way or the other actually have effect or contributed to some of the literature that we have in the European and the American. So I have been able to record this video and teach you about some of the things that Africans actually pass through. Now this video is not in any way to make you feel bad, or is not in any way to make you hate the Europeans or the Americans. No, this is no longer a war between the white and the black, but this is just to make us understand what some of our fathers, our forefathers actually passed through in the hands of these people. Now don't let this plant hatred in your mind, but let it teach you wisdom. Why? Because history repeats itself, and a man that refuses to learn from history, on that man history will repeat itself. I am Ayorinde Samson Oluwatobiloba, a student of State University, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.